So welcome everyone to the Pitstop Sitecore user group. So I will be discussing the XM to XM cloud migration tool. And about me, so my name is Nehemiah Jeyakumar. I'm a psycho architect at Cloud IQ and a Sitecore Technology MVP. You can find my blogs in my site and connect with me in LinkedIn and social media channel. So before we start, I would like to thank Baran Madhu, the organizers of this group, for giving me this opportunity to present. And I also want to thank Sanjeev, who is also in the call, who helped me to explore this tool. Thank you, Sanjeev, for that. And here is what we will discuss today. I will briefly describe the tool, what it does, and we also provide some kind of background and also provide kind of a comparison between the initial version that Psycho released versus the latest version that we have currently. We also will discuss about the installation and setting up this tool and some of the prerequisites to use this tool. And we will also give kind of a visual walkthrough of how the tool works in a graphical user interface. And we'll also give a walkthrough on the CLA as well. And finally, we will have a question and answer session at the end. So let's start with the introduction on this tool. So this tool is helps moving the content and media and user from a local Sitecore instance. It can be an XM or XP to the target XM cloud environment. So it acts as a middle layer that simplifies the task of selecting the content and orchestrating the migration to the target system. So it is available both in graphical user interface and the command line interface. So in case if you want to have an automation, we can use the CLI to automate it so that automating the migration process can be done as well. To give some background about this tool, so it was first introduced back in North America SACON. So when XM Cloud was introduced and when it was ramping up, so many clients reported there was a hard time of migrating the content from their system to the XM Cloud, and it looks like there was a pain point that was found by the XM Cloud sales team as well at that time. So Psycho invested and they formed a team and worked on this migration tool. They released it during the SACON, and the first version release was on the November as well. So the initial version 1.2, it supported version 10.1 and above, and it supported only the migration of on-prem Psycho content only. So it was not supporting Azure App Service or like any sort of or Psycho 9 also was not supported at that time. So under the hood, it used Psycho content serialization. So whenever we have the content serialization, we also have a hard dependency with the Psycho management service to use the CLI as well. So we had to install the management service in the source system to use the 1.0 version tool. And so even to migrate the users, so what this tool will do is it will get the users list from the source system and it will create a new account in the XM Cloud environment and it will invite those users via the email ID which was provided as part of the user account as well. So it was able to do that all together. But the 1.0 version has a lot of limitations and it was slow as well because it was using the content serialization. It took a lot of time to serialize and then also upload it to the target system and then deserialize. And then the Psycho has released a version 2 in October 2024. It supported version 9.1 and above. Under the hood, Sitecore used Google's protocol buffer to transfer the content, and it is a method which was developed by Google for serializing the structured data. So that has been used in this tool in this version. Since it is no longer using the CLI or the content serialization, so there was no dependency with the Psycho management service as well. To optimize the transfer speed or the migration speed, so Sitecore also managed to uh, migrate in a batches. So in the later stage, I think I'll also talk about some configuration where you can configure in a batch how many items to be transferred or how big of the image files can be transferred on a single batch. So that also you can configure it in this tool. So since it can be migrated in batches, so it was smooth and it was fast compared to the old content serialization way. Okay, and it also supported Psycho on-prem as well as PaaS. So PaaS was newly introduced. It was supported. And one important thing with this tool is the dependencies, since dependency has been reduced further. So Psycho has intelligently kept all the dependencies in a single folder. So what it means is like if you want to work with this tool, you need to just install a package provided by the Psycho as part of this tool, and that has to be installed in the source Psycho system. And the dependencies, everything will be put in a single folder under the webroot folder. So you don't need to mess up with your existing bin folder or any other files. We just deploy only the folder along with certain configuration that you have to make it in the web config, and your tool will be up and running, and you can start migrating the content. And one thing with the media things perspective, only the media files which are stored in the DB can be migrated. So you cannot migrate any media item which has a file system as a storage or Azure blob as a storage. So that is not possible to migrate. So how to get this tool? It is available in the developers.sitecore.com. So when you download the package, when you extract it, it has all the files related to the tool. So it provides the documentation, and it also provides the package which you can use it to deploy in your source system. And it also provides the GUI and also the CLA version of the application. And all the documents are inbuilt. There is no separate documentation available in our documentation site. So for some reasons, I could kept everything in the particular documentation since um, it was not widely spread out in the news or anywhere. Like they didn't broadcast it more. So documentation is not available in the document site. So all documentation kept in the extract only. So let's talk about the dependencies. So as I told you earlier, so all the dependencies has been kept in a single folder called the migration harness. So what you can do is you can either unpack the Sitecore package and extract the content and place it in your webroot folder, or you can just install the package with the installation wizard. So it will just going to drop this particular folder in the webroot folder. So this particular folder has a custom handler and a set of assembly files that can be used to connect to the tool with the source cycle instance. So next we talk about installation. So the dependencies for the source system can be just installed as a package. You just simply install it. It should be done. Along with that, Sitecore also provided some sort of a runtime assembly binding that you need to add it to the web.config file on your Sitecore web.config file. So you just take a backup and modify those or add this runtime assembly binding. And then it will be something similar to this one. So you have to specify the what is the binding, what is the version, and where is the DLL assembly stored. So all these things are configured in those config files. So you just mentioned the set of files, a set of assembly configuration, and that is on the web.config. And another thing is, since this tool needs to get access to all the entities and item services, Sitecore is asking us to modify a particular setting. So Sitecore item services security policy, we want to make it a services on policy. So which will grant all access to all the entities and all item services. So this is setting. So again, you can just simply patch it as shown in the screenshot. You just simply change the value and that will be applicable on your current instance. So as you see, the dependencies are very small. You have a folder, you have web.config change, and you also have a patch file. So in case if you are done with your migration, it's very easy to uninstall it. You just simply delete the folder, revert back the web.config and delete the patch file as well. And then your tool is complete out of your instance. So we are doing all this dependency work only on the source Sitecore instance. We are not doing anything on the XM Cloud. From XM Cloud perspective, we do not need to install any sort of package or no config patches, nothing on the web.config file. So we'll talk about what we need from the XM Cloud perspective. So in the next screen, we'll talk about what are the prerequisites on this tool. So one is the source. We need the content management base URL. We need the admin username and a password. And admin can be any type of admin user. You can create it only specific for this purpose and then use it. And from the target system perspective, you need to have the environment ID and the content management base URL for your specific XM Cloud environment. And also you need to have a client credential. You need a client ID and client secret. So when you talk about the client credentials, it should be the organization credential that you have to create. The reason is, um, so if you want to migrate the user, the tool will create an account in the XM Cloud environment. It will also send an invitation to those users via email. So you need to make sure that you create the organization credentials as part of that. So all these things you can create in the XM Cloud Deploy app. So this is on the high level picture of what this tool, what are the things that are prerequisite for this tool. So let's have a quick walkthrough, a visual walkthrough of this tool. And as part of that, so what I created is I created a simple local instance in my VM, and I created a folder called migration. And under this folder, I assume that I have a legacy content that I want to migrate access to the XM Cloud. So I have created almost like 30,000 plus items in the sample folder. So I just randomly created with the help of PowerShell, and I'm just testing it with this tool. So first, let's try to use the GUI, graphical user interface for this migration. To use this, so I open the GUI and which is going to give me an option to select, okay, whatever migration that you want to do. You want to do content and media only, or you want to add also the users. So I have chosen only the content as of now. And in the next screen, it will ask you, okay, give me your source site for instance, the content management URL that I need to connect to and get those content. And it also need to provide the admin user ID and the password so that the tool can connect to that and get those value. So in the next screen, which is about the target system. So that's where we need to provide all your XM Cloud related details. So the XM Cloud environment ID, content management base URL, and organization's client ID and the client secret. So if you can see this tool, the tool clearly says, okay, where you can go and get those values. Whether it is a environment ID or a client ID or client secret, everything can be followed by other particular guideline. So as you know, the things might change in XM Cloud. There may be a change in the path. So it may work. It is working currently, but in future, if there are changes to the XM Cloud URL or a path, this detail may not work. But this is where currently you can go and fetch those details from the XM Cloud. So now if you have provided your source details correctly, and if the tool is able to access the source system, in the next screen, what it do is like this particular tool will go and fetch the source content tree in a tree view, and it is going to give you an option with a checkbox as well. So as a user, you will go and select what folder or what item that you want to move. So in case if you have a set of items, like for example, a template and a content, automatically the tool will give a higher priority to the template first. It automatically changes it. So the reason is like it wants to make sure that templates are migrated first and then the content are migrated. Otherwise, the content may be created without a template and you may get an object null reference error. So this is to make sure the content migration is properly working. But there are some known issues which this tool has already laid out that they want us to separate the migration process also. They are saying that make sure you migrate the template first as a separate transaction and then go for a content. Uh, we do not know the real reason why, but for me it worked. But what they are recommending is just go for a template first and then go for the content. So once you select all the details and in the next screen, if the target exam code environment details are provided properly, you will have a green message saying that, okay, this everything is looking good and you can start migration. But in case if there are any sort of issues with your credentials, then you will have an error saying that this connection is failed. So you have to make sure you modify those things and you have to update your client and client secret, all those details properly. And once you click on migrate, that's where the all sort of magic happens. So the tool will go and fetch the content from the source Sitecore instance. And with the help of the Google's protocol buffer, it is able to serialize the content. And with the help of the configuration of batches, it will create the batch files and it will start migrating the content to the target system. So in this case, I was trying to migrate like sample 31,000 items. It was able to complete in just like 11 seconds. It was able to serialize the content, getting the batch files and transferring it, and then loading it into the Sitecore XM cloud also. Everything was done in just 11 seconds. Uh, but this tool also provides, let's say if you have a more number of items or if the media files are so huge, so there is a transfer job polling feature which is built in as part of the tool itself. So in case if there are any sort of delay or anything, it will go and poll the job every 30 seconds or something, and then it will going to get the results to you. If the status is in true, then it's going to tell you, okay, in what is the status of the job and whether it is in completed, whether it is still having any problem. All sort of details can be shown in the log directly. So that is the way. So this is the completion. So it has completed everything. And then if you go and see the exam cloud, all the items that you wanted to transfer, everything has been properly placed in the exam cloud as well. So this is on GUI. One thing is whatever the data that you entered as part of this graphical user interface. So everything has to be stored in one of the configurations so that this particular tool can work. So what happens is whenever whenever the graphical user interface or the CL is being used, and automatically a configuration called app setting.json file is created automatically. So what happens is like by default, whenever you download the tool from the developer's site, the app settings.json file won't be available, but it will automatically getting created whenever you open GUI CLI for the first time. And all sort of configuration that you enter via GUI, everything is being stored in the JSON file. Even the password, even the client ID or clients, everything is stored there. And that is kind of a base for your GUI to work next time. It will just take the value from there and it will load everything up for you. And let's say if you want to, like, what are the content that you selected as part of the content tree? So that is also saved in the JSON file, same JSON file. So it is more like how we do it in the content serialization, where you specify the path, or the title, or the path, and also specify what type of migration, whether you want item with sub-item, item with children, and also the merging strategy. So all sort of things are there also as part of this configuration. So there are two set of configuration. One is a content transfer scope, which is having a configuration called item and dissonance, which is going to package every item also on the dissonance as well. So as of now, with the version 2, there is only one configuration. This is the item and dissonance. There is no other configuration available at this time. So same thing with the merge strategy as well. The only available option currently is to override the existing item. So there is no other way of kind of like merging or not merge. There is no other way. Like there is only one option at this time which is available is the override existing item. So when we use it, it is just simply going to override the target system with all the dissonance items. Okay. And another configuration which is there as part of the application app settings or JSON file is the batching. So there are two sort of configuration. One is items per ref, which is nothing but number of Sitecore items to be included in a single batch file. So you can specify um, the number of items to be created. From a psycho standpoint, what it says a to load setting. Let's say if you're having a very less number of, let's say like 10 items per batch file, then there will be a creation of large number of batch files will be created and it has to be transferred to the target system. And but in case if there are too high items per batch, then the transfer speed also will be affected. So the optimal is like 500. That's what the documentation says, but from my experience, whenever the auto-generated file was created, I found that the value was 10,000 items per batch, and it was working as well. I didn't have any problem with that. But the document says it's 500, but 10,000 was working perfectly for me as well. So another setting is the media size limit. So this determines the maximum size of the media content that can be included in a single batch file. Um, so after the 100 MB of file is generated, it will start getting new batch file, and then it can be used during the transfer to the target system. So this is one of a configuration. I just want to show that, okay, you can see what are the value that you entered in the UI that is being stored here, and also the content. It is more like our content serialization format, but the parameter is a little bit different from that. So if you want to add, you can just simply add it in the setting also, the JSON file also. Um, Coming to the CLI. So now, as you see, we have the JSON file created, and you can use the same JSON configuration to use the CLI as well. So the JSON file is created on the same folder only. So the extract is also being created. So you can use the CLI command to execute the transfer process. It will be using the same configuration from the folder and start executing it. So there are some set of commands that you can use. One is the content. It's a command which is going to read the setting from JSON file. It will start triggering the content migration and it will be sending it to the XM cloud. There are some additional options as part of CLI where if you don't want to store the admin username and password of your source system, you can pass it as a parameter in the command, like a source user admin or a source password, which is the provided username and password. Then it won't you don't need to store it in the JSON file if you just pass it as a parameter. And as I was telling, this particular tool also helps to migrate the users. So you have way to migrate all the users of a particular domain. So let's say if you have some sort of custom domains or configured in your cycle, if you specify the particular domain in the migrate user domains value, it is going to fetch all the users under the particular domain and it will be sending it to the XM cloud. It will create an account. It will also send the invitation to those users from the XM cloud environment. And the user can accept it and then start accessing those environment. And to get the help, you can use question mark hide or help. It is going to show you the commands that are available, just like how we do it for the Psycho CLI. So just to give you a small visual representation of the CLI, this is how it is. Like if you just do content, which will execute the content migration with the same JSON file, and which will also going to split the same kind of logs that you got it from the GUI as well. So you'll be able to see the status and everything. And in case if there are any failure from a connection standpoint, it will just going to show you certain details are not available or it's not correct, and you have to provide a new value, and that will help you to solve the problem. So one good thing with this tool is like for each run, whether it's a CLI or a graphical user interface, it is going to create a new log file under the same folder. So if you just execute, it's going to create a new file and it is going to it's going to show all the logs, and you can always go back and review and see if there are any issue. You can also troubleshoot the issue there. And yeah, so it just and it creates a new log for each run. So that is helpful to separate between the each run. Okay, coming to metrics. So this tool I have not used on a production project. I just used from a test perspective. So I use like 31,000 items, and I migrated from my local instance, which was running on a VM, to an XM Cloud environment and with my local home internet. So I used that, and I was able to migrate the content with 11 seconds, approximately 11 seconds. But I just want to give a disclaimer. This is not official stand. Like I have not seen any sort of official performance indicator anywhere. But this is just from my limited sample data that I use to migrate the content. But it was pretty fast when we compare to like number of items that we migrated. But when it comes to CLI, we used to see the slowness when we used the version 1.2. It was slow. It had to deserialize it and then again upload it and then deserialize. All sort of things are avoided in the new version currently. So to conclude, so this tool is perfect for migrating large amount of data. So in case if you want to do as-is migration, if you don't want to do any sort of transformation, then this tool can really help. It will speed up the migration process. Uh, and this tool does not do any sort of transformation. In case if you want to do any sort of extract or transform and load some kind of work, this tool is not the right tool. You may need to go for some kind of PowerShell extension or some other similar tool which can help you to do the transformation during the migration process. And one important thing is, yeah, migrate the template first. That is the main thing. And that is also a known issue which was listed in the documentation. So migrate the template first and then migrate the content. And also on the media side, again, it is only supported for the media items stored in the DB. So in case if you have items on the file system, it's not going to work. So you need to go for some other kind of application to migrate those content. Yeah, so this tool has a very peculiar use case. Like if you want to go for access migration, it's okay, it's going to work. It's going to be fast. But in many cases, I have seen like we need to have a transformation from our XM. Like XM cloud is completely headless. And if we cannot just simply go and do a access migration, so you need to go for transformation. But in case if you have some sort of legacy content, and if you want to move some sort of legacy media items, this tool will definitely help you to migrate in a quicker way. And with also with the available of CLI, which is going to help you in case if you want to do an automation process during your XM Cloud project, you can use this tool to migrate that as well. Okay, so that's all I have. Thank you for your attention, and we can open up for questions.
One of the questions I had is like, this is supposed to be the same version, or can we migrate from 8.1 to 10? That would be more valuable. I don't know if that kind of scenarios are often coming across. So we are finding strategies with database migration, update scripts, and everything.
As of now,
So
it is supported only in 9.1 and above. Uh,
9.1 and above. Okay.
yeah, I don't know whether Sitecore is still investing on this particular tool. So we have to check on Sitecore. But to be honest with you, like even Sitecore documentation does not have it. So that is kind of worrying for me also. It's
Yeah,
kind of
because if it is not in the radar, maybe it is somewhere somebody is using it and it might go away. Yeah, but that's great. Thanks for going deep into it and showing the value there.